Hey guys, this is Chelsea Schaefer and this is The Score. This is the Team Roping Journal's venture into the world of podcasting. On this show, you'll be able to bring the Team Roping world's movers and shakers on the road or to the office with you. They'll be telling stories and talking through some of the issues facing this sport. As the editor of the Team Roping Journal, I'll be your host. Hey everyone, welcome to episode 12 of The Score, the Team Roping Journal's podcast. Hi Caitlin.
Hey Chelsea, how's it going?
Good. So this episode, as we are coming on the 12th edition of this, is a little bit different because it's our first one with a producer. And if you're going to do one with a producer, I don't know many better, maybe bigger characters than John Johnson to do a podcast with. John stopped by our office a couple weeks ago. We were working on some promotions for the USTRC National Finals of Team Roping, and John stopped by and we got to visiting, and this was kind of a cool one. It's kind of one of my favorite ways to do a podcast because I just said, hey, this conversation's going really well. Can I turn on my recorder? And we just kind of did, and it was really natural and organic. If you don't know John, Caitlin, that was your first time meeting him, correct?
Mm-hmm. First time. He was super nice and easy to talk to, and
yeah, you picked him up from the airport, huh?
I did.
Yeah, he played.
It was a good ride. You know, you kind of never know with these kind of bigger dogs. You never know how their drive's going to be. 30-minute drive, and it was probably one of my favorite drives I've ever had, picking up a stranger that I've never met before.
You got to play Uber driver.
I did.
Or Lyft driver, I guess. So John's JX2 Productions, it's based out of Tennessee. And obviously he's from the South. If anybody knows him, you know him as Mr. Moonshine, because I don't know if anybody's listening to this that ought not to be or that's going to get John in trouble, but you can always count on that guy to have something good to drink if you visit him at a roping. So definitely say hi to John, introduce yourself to him, because his calling card is his Southern hospitality, for sure, and that kind of shows in every which way you meet him. So if anybody knows a little bit about me, I'm from the East Coast, and one of my favorite things about John is that he really serves kind of an underserved market back there. He is passionate about his people. He promotes what they do. He always is one to tell me stories and to pass along the good word about what might be happening back there. And he's so in touch with his ropers. There's no strangers at a JX2 roping, and that's whether or not you are in Tunica, Mississippi, which, by the way, the big Vegas of the East roping is this weekend. And if you're listening to this the week of Labor Day, I guess. Or if you're at his Cheyenne roping, the Daddy, he's put it on, I believe, 12 years now. So he's just really great to work with. He's always really willing to talk and really willing to be open and candid. And he's got really big things. For working in kind of a smaller market, he's got a lot of big plans for the coming couple years. I know I've gotten privy to some fun information about things that he's going to roll out, and I think everybody's going to be excited. Well, I know I sure enjoyed this conversation with John. I hope you do too. So listen, let us know, write us an email, and leave us a review on iTunes, SoundCloud, or Stitcher, or however you're listening. Hi, John.
Hello.
Welcome to the Boulder office of Active Interest Media.
Surely glad to be here. I appreciate you guys having me here.
And you guys are all, so for anybody listening, the bigwigs are in town. Everybody from across the associations are here. Tell me what you guys are doing in Boulder.
Well, Carl had contacted us a few weeks ago about coming in and trying to do some media releases for the USTRC National Finals. And of course, USTRC is very strong in the East, and we're really proud of that. So I jumped at the opportunity. Anything I can do to promote the finals and promote our production companies and promote the sport, I love doing it.
How long have you been with the USTRC as a producer?
Oh, wow. We produced our first USTRC roping in 1998. So going into our 21st year, finishing up our 21st year.
Where was that?
It was in Harriman, Tennessee. And it was a long time ago, but I remember it like it was yesterday. And it's really amazing how USTRC, through all the changes over the years, has remained pretty darn strong in the East with our affiliate programs and what have you. It's something else how the sport has grown out there.
Yeah, talk about the sport back east. What's the culture like?
Well, you know what? I can honestly tell you I'm really proud of how things have come about in the last several years. I really felt like when we first started putting on events, that the East was probably a decade behind the rest of the country. And what I mean by that is not just as far as the classifications go, but the type of horses, the type of events, maybe even as myself as a producer, the knowledge that I had to do bigger and better events. I can honestly tell you in the last 10 years, it's really changed, especially in the last few years. Last year in Oklahoma City, ropers from the East won over $800,000. At the finale in Las Vegas, $1.1 million. We have a big finals there in Jacksonville that pays out over $400,000 cash. There's 2 or 3 qualifiers around there that pay over $250,000. So the amount of money people rope for, the horses they ride, how they dress, how they rope, it's really, really changed.
That's awesome. And the cattle that you rope, where do those cattle come from?
That's one of our biggest problems. One of our biggest issues is keeping quality cattle. A lot of the climate there is not conducive for it, and a lot of there's not what you would call ranches and cattle suppliers in our part of the country for team roping. We have managed to get a few guys that are starting to get some cattle from Texas and cross some cattle over, and a lot of Mexican cattle in the southeast now. But a lot of natives too are used. As we get into the Atlantic seaboard over there, and we have to go further northeast, the issues we have is you hardly have anybody that has more than 80 or 90 head. So we just had it roping in South Carolina, for example. I had 3 different cattle contractors. That makes it tough.
Yeah.
And so those are some of the issues that we have. It's probably my toughest one to get around. But, most of the things, I have a guy named Cody Warner in Mississippi that does most of the supplying of our cattle now. And he's got some good connections worked out with some guys in Texas. And we've been fortunate to have some good Mexican cattle for the last couple of years.
At kind of every level of the sport, there's a lot of discussion about how you can grow the sport and if you can grow rodeo, team roping at all. Where's the growth back there?
Well, I think below the Mason-Dixon line, I think we're doing about all we can do. Jay Holmes has a great place down there in Sarasota, Florida, and he's part of our association and has some good ropings. And you got Ed Allen over in Alabama, and we cross pretty much all over the southeast, and everybody's on the same page, and everybody's putting on good events. And to be honest with you, obviously getting new ropers involved is a way we can get people there to rope more and get more people involved in it. But the greatest opportunity for growth east of Mississippi is in the Northeast. Some great opportunities there. There's a lot of ropers in Michigan that don't go many other places because, and in all fairness to those guys, for the first time in about a decade, I attended the Ohio and Indiana Classic this year. And it wasn't any other reason, but my schedule hasn't allowed it. We used to go all the time. I've seen a lot of ropers from Michigan and Ohio and the New York area. And they said, hey, we'd love to come to your events, but it's 12 hours.
Yeah.
So I think we've got to do a much better opportunity or do much better job of giving those guys opportunities to get a card in their hand. And I'm not saying flood the Northeast with half a dozen ropings, but I do think there's an opportunity to go up there and put on 2 or 3 really quality ropings and get those guys from that area back roping and get some new members too. Mm-hmm. I just think, I pulled the demographics on the Ohio and Indiana roping, and Indiana, of course, the most ropers came from Indiana, and in Ohio, the most ropers came from Ohio, but the second state at both those ropings was Michigan. I thought that was kind of interesting.
Yeah.
So that's my goal is that's my project in the next several years, if I can stay hooked in this deal, is I'd like to venture into that Northeast and do a couple really good events.
Now, will guys, a lot of people from your areas come to the Cinch National Finals of Team Roping here in October?
You know what? It's a big deal for people in the East. It's 1,000 miles for us, but Oklahoma City's a great destination. It's one of the few places that I think could actually handle that finals. It's a great host city. Our guys like traveling out there. It's a big deal in the East. The people, that's really a finals that they look forward to. And the multiplicity of it allows us some opportunities because you have multiple entry. you've got a ladies division and a number 7 and something for the kids, and then there's some opportunities to rope it down at Guthrie, and they have draw pot options there. So if you don't have a partner, so it gives a little more flexibility than some other finals. So it's something that everybody really works toward in our part of the country.
Now, nationwide, the 10 is a really popular division. What's the biggest division on the East Coast? Is it still the 10?
It's probably the 10. Yeah, it fluctuates a little bit. I will tell you, I'm really impressed with the numbers we're starting to get in the 12 and the 11 too. But the 10 still holds strong, and that that 9's a strong division out there too. But day in, day out, it has to be the 10 point.
And are there a lot of kids coming up roping together with their parents?
That's a neat thing about this sport. I have a son that ropes, and he ropes with me and my dad, and that's kind of cool. He gets to rope with his granddad, and and we talked a while ago. I felt like that we were 10 years behind. There are so many kids, junior high and high school rodeoing out there, and so many little knockoff associations. I mean, it's almost been a hindrance to team roping because there's something every weekend. But there's a lot of young cowboys and cowgirls that are doing really well out there.
And they've got some really cool heroes. I mean, Luke Brown's from the Southeast, Caleb Triggers,
Chad Masters,
Manny, Dustin.
Speed Williams is from the Southeast. Some of the, and we take a lot of pride in that too. And I honestly, what our objective is when we put on an event, if it's a World Series event, for example, producers know producers. So Troy Shelley's one of my best friends. I try to set my arenas up just like Troy would set up the finale. Ty Yost is one of my friends. When we do have different ideas and things, I want to stay up on this stuff. So when somebody goes to Oklahoma City, or somebody goes to Las Vegas, or they go out to Ty's place in Wickenburg, those setups are the same that they see. And so we try to work toward that. And I take a lot of pride in those guys that are professionals from out our way. And those guys are class guys. Chad's a class guy, Luke is, and now you got Dustin, who's an upcoming guy. Caleb's one of the best headers maybe ever. And it's the kick on the guys from the South has been, they're really good against short scores, but not so much on long scores. Cheyenne was 1, 2, 3. Chad, Caleb, and Dustin, headers.
Yeah.
So, and there's some guys, the thing that's kind of interesting, Corey Kidd, Caleb Anderson, Clint Summers, some of those guys were all lingering around that 15th place. Seeing all those guys grow up and rope, and a lot of those kids do idolize those guys. So, yeah, it's kind of neat to have that. And they're, like I said, those fellas are good people.
Yeah, really Clint just had an amazing weekend. He won 9,000 this last weekend. So
he sure did. And I think he's got a good shot. Corey Kidd is right there at 15.
Yeah, I was so excited for Corey.
And that guy, there's a lot of those guys, just like out here, that have that talent. But what part of the problem of us keeping really good open ropers back east is if they're going to make it, they really do have to come west.
They have to come here.
Yeah, they really do. And that has been a little bit of the compression, I think, of why our kids, a guy, say maybe that doesn't necessarily want a rodeo, that has a hard time getting better. Because there's, you're only as good as the people you rope against.
Iron sharpens iron, as they say. Yep.
Don't forget, this podcast is supported by US Rider, the premier equestrian roadside assistance program in the industry. You've heard me talk about it every episode since the start, and now I want to give you a promo code so you all can subscribe and save money too. You get 14 months for the price of 12 with the promo code PC718. That is P as in Paul, C as in cat, 718. You only get it if you're listening to The Score. This is a Score exclusive promo code. So head on over to usrider.org and subscribe.
You have had a really loyal following too. It seems like guys talk to friends in Ohio and Pennsylvania that'll be driving to Tennessee, that'll be driving to Jacksonville. Talk about, they seem to travel in your circle. It's almost like a string of ropings that you've got to go to.
It's been a really obviously a long, hard process, a lot of ups and downs. But we've done some study on our events, and people travel about 200 to 250 miles on the average. That's an average to come. So what our objectives have been is, hey, look, when you come, we want to have a great team roping. We also want to have a really good event. I want to have a great hospitable staff. I want you to have fun. We try to implement some concerts here and there and some cookouts and some golf tournaments and just things that allow people that are having to travel a long way, make it a little more than just a little jackpot. Plus, I think when you're good to people and you let them know that you appreciate them being there, I think that means a lot to people these days. And I'm finding that even coming out here and doing Cheyenne, I had several guys tell me a long time ago, oh, those guys out there, they don't care about all that Southern hospitality. Yes, they do. Mm-hmm. They appreciate it. And so, competition's tough now for producers. Roping's all over the place, 80% paybacks, rigs, everything else. So we try to develop relationships with ropers.
I couldn't believe how many people I saw in Cheyenne from South Texas. Like, what on earth are you all doing up here? And it was very obvious what they were all doing up here because that roping was so good.
It was a really outstanding event. The guys that travel, like you said, that I really try to make it a point. Even when I come to Cheyenne, I don't know everybody here, but I know a lot of people. And I want to try to make it my goal to know every roper in that building. Mm-hmm. And the fortunate thing for me back east, the one thing that I have over, let's say somebody like Troy who gets 2,000 teams at every roping, we don't. Mm-hmm. We had a roping in Tunica, Mississippi this weekend. We had 1,250 teams, but there was people there from 12 states, mm-hmm. and I knew every one of them. And so we try to make that our business. That's the one thing that I think maybe gives us a little more of an advantage. Is to develop personal relationships with these guys. And so they'll travel a little more. Mm-hmm. So we enjoy that.
Yeah. How much did Cheyenne pay? Are the numbers in yet?
Paid out $700,000 in cash.
That's awesome.
It's incredible. I mean, I want to tell you, I went to Preeford last week. They've got some really cool up-and-coming things that's going to help team roping.
I heard for their 20th anniversary they've got a ton of stuff.
Oh, it's unbelievable.
Yeah.
And Troy was there, and we were talking, and he said, I don't know that I've had a roping that's paid $700,000. And I'm starting thinking about it a little bit, and I was thinking, other than the U.S. Finals, the World Series finale, maybe 2 or 3, maybe a couple more finals, that might be the largest payout of a roping all year. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's a lot of money.
What does it for that roping? It's
that roping. We just finished our 12th year, so. When Denny first started the World Series, not a lot of people know this, but I was the first guy to do a World Series in Colorado and Wyoming and Oklahoma. We had a few events out here. He asked me to tag them on. We did. And, of course, he did his deal, but the first few years, World Series was not something that was booming out here. And so those prize ropings and the Muley's ropings and the 7-head deal kind of carried that event a little bit. And now it's just turned into the perfect storm. I mean, you got Cheyenne. I mean, Frontier Days. There's probably not a more historic city in our sport. Mm-hmm. Then the World Series started paying ungodly amounts of money in Vegas. And I think a lot of the ranchers and some of the ropers even kind of look at that as their finals now. Mm-hmm. And we put a little twist on it, put a muley roping or two in that was a little different, and that 7-head's always been good. And all of a sudden it become a destination spot, a vacation spot. People start seeing how the ropings were paying, and I mean, all of a sudden a guy can go put up 250, have 180 teams and win 20 grand.
And it was still hot in Cheyenne, but the guys from South Texas were saying it's nothing like South Texas, so that's why they came up.
Yeah, the weather is, we got out of here before all the bad weather hit,
Mm-hmm.
but the weather was perfect. The guys come up for that too, and I have to say, Gary Rodemel does a great job with the steers and the muleys. The cattle are always good. That facility's kind of a cool little place. Mm-hmm. It's close to the rodeo. I have a really great staff, and it's just a perfect storm. It's kind of a cool deal.
And your staff, I find that a lot of roping producers really get a secretary that sticks with them for a long time. Tell me about your team. It seems like it takes a special crew.
Actually, my stepsister is my secretary, so that helps. And my niece helps with our marketing and our scheduling and our, all that kind of stuff. And so I have a lot of people. My dad used to help me a lot. and I have a lot of people that have been with me for a while. And everybody, you know, I'm not a micromanager, so everybody knows their job. They do it well. They do it with a smile on their face. And if they have any issues, that's when I get involved. Other than that, I mean, I really don't even need to be there. I think they're just fine without me. But they are all so in tune with what we want to accomplish as a team. It's really pretty cool. I mean, from my flagger to my cattle crew guys to my stall help, they all know what our objective is, and it's a pretty well-oiled machine. They do a great, but we do, 23, 24 events a year, so they should be pretty good at it.
Yeah, they get their practice. Do you get to rope very much in between all that?
You know what? I don't. This is a fun time for me because from now until Oklahoma City and then to Vegas, I only have, I think I got 4 events left. They're kind of spread out, so I actually get to practice with my son and my dad, and we enjoy that. During the year, I also coach middle school basketball. And
You do?
I do coach middle school basketball, and my oldest son, plays in high school. So from January to about June, it's nutso. And we don't get to practice hardly any. In the weather, you're from back east, so if you don't have an indoor facility, it's kind of tough.
I'm from back east. You just outed me.
But
Just kidding.
it's we don't get to practice a lot. Most of the time, it's run a few steers the day before the rope, and that's about it.
Definitely. Now, how many kids do you have?
I have 2 sons. One's 13 going in the 8th grade, and one's 18 going into his senior year in high school.
Do they want to rope for a living, be roping producers?
You know what? Mason does. My oldest one loves it, craves it. He really wants to run his company someday, which is really exciting for me. And I'm really excited for the ropers east of Mississippi because he kind of enlightened me that he wanted to do that at an early age. So what I've been doing for him is I've made him develop his own relationship with those guys. He takes care of his own business, and he's really started letting him produce 1 rope a year at the house. And since I had to go to Preeford last week, he really kind of went over and set that whole U.S. roping up at South Carolina, and he's getting a good schooling. But he will be so good for those guys because he understands it, and he understands them, and he has his own relationship with them. My youngest son is strictly a ball player. He won't even get on a horse.
That's funny.
So that's kind of how kids are nowadays. So I'm really proud of him too. And as kids, I just want them to have a passion for something and love it and stay focused on it. And I'm very fortunate to have 2 healthy, athletic kids.
Yeah. Now, I've seen friends that have had businesses and their kids kind of never took interest in it. And then they kind of fizzled out because they knew they were doing it, they couldn't take the business to their grave. Where you, knowing from an early age your son wanted to take over, that's got to keep fueling you.
You know what? And I like to think outside the box a little bit. So, I'm already thinking, we have a deal. He understands my expectations of him. So he's going to go to college for 4 years, and he's going to go to work for me immediately. But he's still going to get his degree. And it's allowed me to start thinking about making Cheyenne a little more special and making my finals a little more special and maybe adding an event in New York and maybe so I'm starting to think maybe I need to, when he's ready to take this thing, is focus my deal on some 4 or 5 major events that I can really make grand and let him kind of do the everyday kind of stuff. That's
cool. Just the dynamic between you and your son's going to have an effect on team roping for the next 50 or 100 years. So
yeah, it's kind of, I'm proud of the fact that he wants to do it because it's been a labor of love for sure. The stories are endless, and I'm sure all producers have them, but the changes that have been made in this sport over the last 20 years are just phenomenal.
What are the most common misconceptions about being a team roping producer?
Well, of course, the number one overall is everybody thinks you make a ton of money. Everybody, oh man, he's getting rich until they try it. And then they realize, over the course of 23 or 24, really and truly, Denny Gentry is the master of all this, and we all know that. And I'm so thankful for him and Connie for giving me an opportunity. Literally, they laid the groundwork for me to have an opportunity to do something great. And, but that's the biggest misconception is that you make so much money doing this, and you know what? Obviously, we do it for a living, so it's not like if we didn't, we would get out of it. But man, there's so many ups and downs in it, and the competition's so tough now, and you know it's a recreational sport. Most of my customers are blue collar people, so when the economy's not good, we have to think of different ways to do things. So I've tried to keep my finger on the pulse of what's going on. We try to offer U.S. ropings, World Series ropings, prize ropings, and try to just, stay ahead of this deal. But it's not easy putting on ropings. I mean, nothing is, but just the fact that the facilities are a little tougher where we're at, cattle's a little tougher. Like our haul bill on our steers and stuff is outrageous.
Yeah, I'm sure.
I mean, it's outrageous. And most of the facilities that we go to, not most, every one of them except the 2 private facilities that I use, are not set up for team roping.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to haul two truckloads and trailer loads of equipment. And we're there a day early and we stay a day late. I mean, it's just it's what we've chosen to do.
Sure.
But it's the arenas in Texas are set up. There's 2 arenas.
Mm-hmm.
The cattle are close by. So we have a lot of expenses and a lot of other things that other guys don't deal with.
Was there a time in the last 20 or so years that you thought, that I'm not going to make it, or I'm not going to do this anymore, I'm getting out?
My wife Penny and I went through a lot, and I'm telling you, the first, goodness gracious, probably the first 5 or 6 years, we had our house mortgaged, we had credit cards maxed out. I remember some ropings that my brother used to be involved with our company, and I remember he and I, we would sell our timing equipment to pay our staff, and it was, there's been lots of times that I would, I remember her coming to me when we started that NTRL after like 2005. She said, "Hey, is this going to work or not?" I mean, it's time to, and I don't know why, but I just felt like that it was, if we just stuck with it, that it would all work out.
Was it just all the sticking with it, or was there like a lucky break anywhere along the way? Or?
Oh no, so many people have helped.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there was one guy in particular that, a guy named Rick Barton, who used to be involved with Ecobrand from West Virginia.
Mm-hmm.
And, he just, and Larry Tucker, those guys in West Virginia, and my call, and of course, Denny's given me some opportunities, and the Bray family has been good to me.
My call helped me get into
from
Ecobrand
Ecobrand,
from
yeah.
the beginning, yeah.
The list goes on. Absolutely, the breaks. We've had it. We got a few breaks and got a couple bigger opens. Saw some ropings grow. And obviously, the products have got better, and the money you can rope for has got bigger, and so. We're just trying to stay ahead of it and stayed after it. Made some good connections over the years with the right people, and they believed in what we were doing and kind of gave us some push along the way. So it's been a cool deal for me. Really been fun, and it's been tough, but it's been fun. And yeah, the whole business without the people that have helped us as far as sponsors go, we would never made it. I mean, we would not have made it, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And, just the relationships that I have with people is probably the coolest thing about this for me. For the sake of not sounding corny, like I love sports. And the thing I love about sports is, I tell people all the time, they give you moments
Exactly.
that you can't get in any other walk of life. They just give you those moments, good and bad. And it's almost taken for granted now. I don't, but I saw, we had a 6-point roping this weekend in Tunica, Mississippi, and a lady about in her probably mid-40s came and roped for the first time ever in her life at a roping, and she won second place and won a buckle and was ecstatic. That's cool to me.
Mm-hmm.
A 12-year-old kid in Cheyenne, Wyoming draws Alan Bach in a 7-head and backs in the box.
That was so cool.
Backs in the box with a legend in Cheyenne and wins $25,000. That's cool to me.
That was so cool. That was my favorite moment of the whole week at Cheyenne, for sure.
That kind of stuff drives me on this, and we take for granted now because there's so many trucks and trailers and stuff given away, and we give away hundreds. that people take that for granted. How many people in their lifetime get an opportunity to win a $60,000 prize or win $25,000 or have that moment? So again, for the sake of not sounding corny, to make some of those dreams come true is really a thing that drives me in this.
Yeah, I know. I'm sure there's so many people out there like me and my husband who are constantly just trying to make it. What a $5,000 break does for our year.
Unbelievable.
Just $5,000 going the right way and not losing it.
Unbelievable. And you really can make an impact on people's lives, and to me that's really cool. I mean, I just love the thought that I'm in a position and I do something that really can have a profound impact on somebody's life. That's a pretty cool deal.
Yeah, I think that's one of my favorite parts of our jobs.
It sure is.
Definitely.
Really neat.
Well, thank you so much, John.
Oh, thank you. Appreciate
That's
it.
fun. You
Was
should come to the office here in Colorado more often.
And I'll come anytime.
All right. Thanks, John.
Thank you.
Well, guys, that's it for that conversation with John Johnson. Check him out, his rope-ins at JX2 Productions. And don't forget, I know, I keep saying it, leave us a review on SoundCloud, iTunes, or Stitcher, however you're listening, and share it with your friends. Thanks!